The message came in just as I was folding the last stack of ivory cloth napkins, the ones Dana had chosen with so much fuss 2 months ago. My phone buzzed on the corner of the table, and I picked it up without thinking. It was from Trent. "Mom, things are tight with the venue. There's no place for you at the wedding. Hope you understand." That was it. No phone call, no voice, no warmth. Just a text like I was a contractor being let go. I stared at it for a long time. My hands were still holding a napkin, folding it into that little triangle I'd learned from a video, the way Dana wanted. For a moment I thought maybe I misread it. Maybe there was another message coming. An explanation. A joke, even. But no, that was all. I stood there in the quiet kitchen surrounded by the pieces of their wedding ribbons, place cards, boxes of candles I'd ordered last week. I had found the venue. I'd written the deposit check. I helped coordinate vendors when Dana's planner dropped out. And now, there was no place for me. I walked over to the window and opened it. The air was heavy. I remember the birds were chirping, but they sounded far away. The napkin slipped from my hand to the floor. I didn't cry. I just stood there stunned as if the world had shifted, and I was the only one who felt the tilt. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was surgical. Sharp. As if someone had cut me out of a photo with precision, careful not to disturb the rest of the image. I picked up the phone again. Reread the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the cupboard and took down the wedding china box I'd set aside for Dana, the one with the pale gold trim. I closed the lid. Quietly. Then I dialed Trent's number. He didn't pick up. After the call went to voicemail, I sat at the edge of the bed and let the silence fill the room. It wasn't new. It just felt heavier now, like all the quiet years had been holding their breath for this. When Trent was 5, I worked the night shift at the shipping yard and cleaned offices in the early mornings. He used to fall asleep on the couch, clutching a stuffed bear someone gave him at the hospital when Harold, his father, was dying. I'd come home, kiss his forehead, and start cooking breakfast before the sun came up. We never had much, but I made sure he never felt it. We didn't do big vacations, but I packed his lunches with silly notes and ran school fundraisers like a full-time job. I didn't remarry. I stayed because he needed stability. I gave it to him piece by piece, even when it meant giving up everything else. The catering business was his dream. When he said he found a location and needed capital to lock it in, I didn't hesitate. I took off my wedding ring and sold it. He told me he'd pay me back, but I never asked. It was a mother's gift. Then Dana came into the picture. Charming, fast-talking, always in control. I liked her truly. She brought Trent out of his shell. When they announced the engagement, I hugged her like family. I meant it. Helping plan the wedding was my idea, my gift. I knew how stressful events could be, and I wanted them to start off easy. I offered my time, my resources, and my connections. No charge, just love. I didn't realize that when people are used to getting things for free, they start thinking it costs nothing. The next morning, Dana posted a photo of the wedding invitations. The caption read, "Final guest list, sealed and ready. Grateful for our circle." I wasn't in the photo, and my address wasn't listed as the return. They'd used it to send the invites, but never to send me one. The photos came late at night. My neighbor Janice texted me with a cheerful, "Looked like a lovely party," and a row of heart emojis. I didn't understand what she meant until I opened the attachments. There were balloons twisted into gold rings, cupcakes with edible pearls, and a chalkboard sign that read, "Dana's Bridal Brunch. Love and laughter." I paused at the second photo. My cousin Doreen was there, laughing into a glass of something bubbly. I hadn't spoken to Doreen in years after she borrowed money from me and never paid it back. Yet there she was, seated beside Dana, arms linked like old friends. In another photo, I saw Camille. Camille used to work in HR with me. I'd introduced her to Dana last summer during a cookout. They hit it off over a conversation about cake decorating. I remember thinking how nice it would be for Dana to have someone like Camille around. And now, here, Camille was grinning in a group shot, her name written on a place card in perfect cursive. I kept scrolling each photo feeling like a paper cut. Dozens of people I knew, some barely, some closely, standing around Dana, like they were all part of some shared history I'd never been invited to claim. Then I noticed the location tag at the top of the album. The Stone Finch Bistro. My heart slowed. That was the same restaurant I'd recommended. I had reserved it for them months ago using my name because Dana said she didn't have time to call around. I'd even negotiated the menu. They hadn't just cut me out, they were standing in the very place I had set up for them, pretending I didn't exist. I put the phone down. The silence wasn't hurt anymore. It was something colder. A steadiness I hadn't felt in years. That night, I went into the closet and pulled down the box labeled wedding linens. In the morning, I planned to return the chair covers. 2 days after the bridal shower, Trent called. His tone was breezy, like nothing had happened. "Hey, Mom. Quick thing, Dana's vendor for the wine order needs to finalize the invoice today. We're short about $2,500. Can you send it over this afternoon?" No apology. No mention of the text. No acknowledgement that I wasn't even invited. He just said it like I was the family checkbook. I paused. Not because I didn't have the money. I did, but I needed to hear something else, anything that resembled regret. Or at least recognition that what they'd done had hurt me. I waited a beat before answering. "You're asking me to pay for wine at a wedding I'm not attending." He chuckled. "Come on, don't be like that. It's not about the invite. It's just a little help. You always said you wanted the day to be beautiful." I said nothing. I think he took my silence as agreement, because he hung up with a cheerful, "Thanks, Mom." "You're the best." An hour later, Dana texted thanks. That covered the last few guests. We're all set now. There it was. The truth shoved in with a smiley face. They didn't just exclude me. They filled my seat with someone else and expected me to fund it. I didn't reply. I didn't send the money. I turned off my phone and let it stay that way through the night. No one called. No one knocked. The next morning, I returned the linens and canceled the napkin order. That evening, I made tea and sat alone, watching the porch light flicker against the wind. The phone stayed quiet until 5 days later, when Trent called again. The call came just after dinner. I hadn't spoken to Trent in days, not since the wine request, not since Dana's smug little text. But tonight, his name flashed on my screen 3 times in a row. On the 4th, I answered. "Mom," he said, breathless. "The jazz trio canceled. Their lead singer tested positive. We're 10 days out and Dana's losing her mind. Do you know anyone who can fill in? Please. You know people." I listened to the desperation in his voice. I pictured Dana pacing somewhere behind him, arms crossed, blaming everyone but herself. For a moment, I felt the old instinct rising. The part of me that steps in, smooths chaos, makes it all work. But then I thought of the text, the shower, the wine, the fact that I hadn't been asked to attend, only to solve. I let the silence stretch. "I need your help," Trent said again. I kept my voice steady. "I'm not your fixer anymore." He didn't respond at first. But then I heard a rustle and Dana's voice barreled in. "Oh, for God's sake, Vernice. Grow up. This isn't about your feelings. You said this wedding mattered to you. If it does, stop being petty and step up." She didn't wait for a reply. She just kept going, each word sharp and clipped like I was an employee she was tired of managing. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply ended the call. The click echoed in the room louder than her voice ever could. I stood, walked over to my laptop, and opened the browser. Oregon had been on my mind for weeks, ever since I saw the photo of Cannon Beach tucked into an old travel magazine. Quiet. Windy. Far from here. I found a cottage near the water and clicked, Book now, before I could second guess it. Non-refundable, 7 nights. Departure the morning of the wedding. The confirmation email landed in my inbox just as the porch light blinked on. I hadn't looked at those papers in months. They'd been neatly filed away in a red accordion folder labeled Halden Events, LLC, the legal shell I kept open after I helped Dana set up her catering company. She'd used my name, my credit, and my business reputation to secure vendors when she couldn't get approved on her own. Back then, I thought it was temporary. A stepping stone until she could manage on her own. I never imagined she'd take the stone and build a wall with it, one that shut me out. I called Eliza Tran the next morning. She'd helped me incorporate years ago, back when I was still running local fundraisers and renting linens out of the garage. We met at a small cafe just off Main. She wore her same sharp ponytail and carried that same leather-bound folder that always meant business. I laid out the contract's venue, floral, vendor, linens cake, all under my LLC. My signature was on every line labeled client. Eliza reviewed them without saying a word, flipping pages with the calm precision of someone who's seen this kind of thing far too many times. When she reached the venue agreement, she stopped and tapped her pen on the clause halfway down the page. Here, she said, final payment due 7 days prior to event date. If payment not received, contract terminates. Deposits refundable minus administrative fees. I nodded. I'd written that clause myself years ago. A protection against last-minute chaos. She looked at me over the rim of her glasses. They didn't pay the remaining balance. No, I said. And they won't. They think it's already taken care of. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something like satisfaction. Then legally, it's yours to cancel. I sat back and let the truth settle. This wasn't a threat. It wasn't revenge. It was business. And business had terms. That afternoon, I returned home and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked on a blank email draft. 4 vendors, 4 contracts, 4 quiet decisions to make. The emails didn't take long to write. I'd written hundreds like them before, calm, clear, and professional. Each one began the same to whom it may concern, as the client on record for the event scheduled on August 12th. I am writing to inform you that I will not be remitting the final payment as stipulated in our contract. Please consider this message formal notice of cancellation, effective immediately. I attached the relevant clauses, highlighted the cancellation terms, and listed the refund account for deposit return. No emotion, no elaboration, just clean exits. The subject lines were nearly identical. 4 vendors, 4 countdowns, 4 doors quietly closing. I scheduled them to auto-send at exactly 9 a.m., 7 days before the wedding. 1 week. That's what the contracts allowed. That's what they ignored. Once they were cued, I sat back in my chair. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. It wasn't satisfaction, I felt just clarity. They had built the entire wedding on top of my time, my name, and my silence. And then they erased me. They forgot something essential. Silence is not the same as permission. That night I began to pack. I chose light linen pants, soft cotton blouses, and flat sandals. No makeup, just sunscreen, and a wide-brimmed hat. I slipped a small glass bottle into the side pocket of my bag. My late husband's favorite scent, barely half full. Something he'd bought me the summer before he passed. It reminded me who I used to be, who I still was beneath everything they tried to reduce me to. I zipped the suitcase and placed it by the front door. Outside the porch, light flickered, once then held steady. Inside, my phone buzzed with a family group chat notification. I didn't read it. At exactly 9:00 a.m., the next morning, 4 quiet clicks left my outbox. By noon, the storm would begin. The ocean sounded like breath, slow, rhythmic, and indifferent to everything I'd left behind. I sat on the porch of the rental cottage, a blanket around my shoulders, and a mug of coffee warming my hands. The wind carried salt and pine, and for the first time in years, I felt still. My phone was face down on the table beside me. I hadn't looked at it since I landed. When I finally picked it up, the screen lit up like a firework. 89 missed calls. First Dana, then Trent, then my sister. A voicemail icon blinked, red and persistent. I pressed play. Dana's voice burst through, first cracking with rage. "You're unbelievable! The venue just canceled. The food's not coming. The florist said they never got the balance. What did you do, Vernice? This is a disaster." I let it play. There were 3 more from her, each louder than the last, until they turned into sobs. Trent's messages followed. "Mom, how could you do this to your own family? You've ruined everything." Dana's crying. "Everyone's asking questions. You went too far." But I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel anything really. Just tired. Tired of being the reliable one, the invisible one, the one they remembered only when the fire needed putting out. I opened my messages and typed slowly. No anger, no sarcasm, just the truth. "You told me I had no place. So I left legally, financially, and emotionally." I hit send. Then I turned off the phone and slid it back into my bag. The waves kept moving, unaware of the chaos unraveling states away. I took another sip of coffee and let the silence settle into my bones. In the distance, a couple walked along the edge of the water, barefoot and quiet. I watched them until they disappeared from view. Then I stood, went back inside, and started writing thank you notes to the vendors, not for the service, but for the contracts that protected me. Eliza called while I was watching the morning fog pull back from the coastline. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, she sent a text. "All funds returned. Total 12,740. Let me know what you want to do next." I stared at the number for a long time. It wasn't just money. It was every late-night email, every vendor call, every ounce of effort I'd poured into a day they decided I wasn't worthy of attending. I opened my laptop and transferred $5,000 to a local women's shelter back home, the same one that had helped a former employee of mine escape a dangerous situation years ago. I didn't include a note. No dedication, no grand statement. Just a number quietly delivered. The rest stayed in the LLC account. I waited until the final refund cleared Linen's cake. Even the floral arch Dana had insisted was non-negotiable. The irony made me smile. I didn't announce it to anyone. I didn't post a thing. I simply logged into the bank portal, opened the tab labeled Business Profile, and clicked Close Account. It asked reason for closure. I typed "no longer serving people who forget who built the table they're sitting at." That night, I sat out on the porch with a glass of water and a small photo album I hadn't opened in years. Trent's kindergarten graduation, his first school play, the camping trip we took the year Harold died, his arms around my waist as I lit the fire, his sleepy voice whispering, "You always make everything okay, Mom." I ran my fingers over that picture and wondered where that little boy went. The waves hit the rocks below in slow, thoughtful rhythms. Behind me, the kettle clicked off. I stood, closed the album, and left it on the table. They hadn't just lost a planner. They'd lost the one person who never needed an invitation to show up. The photos started trickling in the day I got home. Not sent to me, of course. But you'd be amazed what people post when they still want to be seen as part of a celebration. I saw the first one through a friend's shared story, someone who'd once worked with Trent. The caption read, "They pulled it off." But the image told a different story. Wrinkled tablecloths, folding chairs, plasticware where there should have been silver. The centerpieces looked like someone bought them last minute at a grocery store. No arch, no music equipment, just a speaker on a folding table and a Bluetooth mic Dana probably borrowed. She was in nearly every photo, her smile pulled tight, like elastic stretched too far. In one, she was mid-sentence scowling toward the camera. Trent stood beside her, his posture stiff, hands in his pockets. Not a single picture showed him laughing. There was no sign of joy, just effort. I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. What I felt was clarity. They had built something without a foundation and were shocked when it wobbled. That evening, I lit a single candle on the porch of my small house. I set my dinner beside it, roasted chicken and a glass of cold water, and ate slowly. Not because it was fancy, but because it was mine. Chosen, prepared, and plated by my own hands. No one interrupted me. No one called. I didn't miss the noise. After the dishes were done, I opened my laptop. There it was. Trent and Dana wedding timeline, still bookmarked, still color-coded. Every deadline, vendor contact, delivery schedule. A masterpiece in logistics. I hovered the mouse over it, then clicked delete. No prompt asked if I was sure. I closed the lid and walked outside. The porch was quiet, the sky beginning to purple. Somewhere down the block, a wind chime shook softly. And just like that, I stopped waiting for a seat at their table. Because this porch, this plate, this piece was mine.